The morning she handed me the court papers, the sun was too bright for something that felt so dark. We were standing in the middle of a crowded city park, children laughing near the fountain, joggers passing by with headphones in, and there she was, Seraphina Vale, holding out a thick envelope as if it weighed more than both of us combined. My best friend's sister looked me straight in the eye and said the words that shattered the ordinary rhythm of my life, "Sign here, be my husband." For a second, I honestly thought it was a joke, some elaborate prank Matteo had cooked up to embarrass me. But when I looked at her trembling hands and the way her shadow quivered on the pavement, I realized this was no joke. This was desperation wrapped in daylight. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Journal. Stories like this remind us that sometimes life's most unexpected moments carry the deepest lessons. I had known Seraphina for nearly 8 years. She was Matteo's younger sister, the quiet one who always carried a sketchbook and preferred the company of trees over people. While Matteo and I built our lives side by side, college, first jobs, shared apartments, Seraphina floated in the background like a distant melody. She was kind but guarded, someone who seemed to carry storms inside her even on clear days. So when she placed those court papers in my hands, I felt the ground tilt beneath me. The documents were real. Marriage registration forms, already partially filled out. My name typed neatly next to hers. My chest tightened as questions flooded my mind. Why me? Why like this? Why now? The park suddenly felt too open, too exposed for something so heavy. I wanted to laugh it off, to ask where the hidden cameras were, but the fear in her eyes stopped me. That was when she told me about the debt. Her late father, a businessman who had trusted the wrong partners, had left behind more than memories. He had left lawsuits, creditors, and a ticking clock. The family home was at risk of being seized. Matteo had no idea how deep the problem ran because Seraphina had shielded him from it, quietly taking meetings, signing temporary agreements, trying to hold everything together alone. But one clause in a complicated inheritance contract required her to be legally married to retain partial ownership of the property. Without that, the house would be auctioned within weeks. She had come to me because I was the only person she trusted who would not exploit her vulnerability. The irony was almost unbearable. Trust can be heavier than love sometimes. As she stood there in the golden mid-morning light, her hair caught by the breeze, she did not look like someone proposing marriage. She looked like someone drowning. I wish I could say I reacted nobly right away, but the truth is I struggled. My mind raced through every possible consequence. Marriage is not a casual favor. It is not a document you sign and forget. It is a bond that changes the course of 2 lives. I thought about my own dreams, moving abroad, building my startup, living freely without obligation. I thought about Matteo and how he might feel betrayed. And I thought about the rumors, the whispers, the way society loves to twist stories it does not understand. That afternoon, I walked home alone under the blazing sun, the envelope tucked under my arm like contraband. Every step felt heavier than the last. I remembered all the times Seraphina had quietly shown up for others, bringing food when my mother was ill, designing a logo for my first business attempt without charging a cent, sitting with Matteo through his worst heartbreak without ever seeking credit. She had always been the steady, invisible strength behind the scenes. Now she was asking for help, not with words of pride, but with trembling humility. That night, I barely slept. The ceiling fan spun lazily above me while my thoughts roared. Was I being manipulated by sympathy? Was this reckless? Or was this one of those rare moments when life asks you to step beyond comfort and into courage? The next morning, I went to see her again. Daylight has a way of clarifying fear. She was sitting on the steps of her family home, the same house where we had spent countless evenings laughing over cheap takeout. The paint was slightly chipped, the garden overgrown, but it was filled with memories. I could see how much it meant to her. What changed me was not her plea, but her willingness to accept rejection. She told me she would understand if I refused. She said she would find another way, even if it meant losing everything. There was no pressure in her voice, only exhaustion and quiet resolve. In that moment, I realized this was not about romance or convenience. It was about standing beside someone when their world was collapsing. I agreed, but with conditions. We would be honest with Matteo. We would set clear boundaries. This marriage would be a partnership built on trust, not obligation. When I signed those papers in the courthouse later that week, sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating the dust in the air like tiny stars. It did not feel like a fairy tale. It felt like responsibility. The days that followed were not easy. Matteo was shocked, confused, even angry at first. He felt left out, hurt that his sister had carried the burden alone. But as the truth unfolded, as he saw the sincerity in both our actions, his anger softened into gratitude. The creditors were notified, the house was secured, and for the first time in months, Seraphina slept without fear. Living under the same roof changed things in ways I did not expect. We learned each other's routines, fears, and quiet habits. We shared morning coffee in silence, afternoon errands under the bright sun, and long conversations about what we truly wanted from life. Somewhere between paperwork and practical arrangements, something gentler began to grow, not dramatic passion, but a steady warmth. Respect turned into admiration. Admiration turned into something deeper. I began to see her not just as my friend's sister, but as a woman of extraordinary resilience. She had carried her family's burdens without complaint, chosen humility over pride, and risked rejection to save what she loved. And in helping her, I found a different version of myself, one less afraid of commitment, more willing to choose courage over comfort. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to engage with the video. Your likes, shares, and comments help stories of hope reach people who might need them most. Months later, as summer sunlight poured through the restored windows of the house we had saved, I realized something unexpected. What started as a desperate arrangement had become the foundation of a genuine partnership. We were not bound by obligation anymore. We were bound by choice. Please comment below if you have ever taken a leap of faith for someone you care about. Life rarely unfolds the way we plan. Sometimes it hands you court papers in the middle of a bright morning and asks you to decide who you are going to be. That day in the park, I thought I was being asked to sign a document. In truth, I was being asked to step into kindness, to offer a second chance not just to Seraphina, but to myself. And under the open, forgiving light of day, I chose to sign.